Welcome, everybody, to a Thursday edition of From the Nosebleeds. I'm Joey Gunnar here with Trent Finnegan, and we're going to be talking about something that's very important heading into another matchup for the Broncos, and that's mindset. Where are Nix and Sean Payton's heads at going into this game, not only against the Jets, which could be a trap game, but coming off of a huge win against the Eagles? So on Wednesdays, we get to hear Nix and Sean Payton take the podium and speak about what they're thinking going into these matchups, coming off of these big games against the Eagles. And both of them were very vocal about how they felt they're doing right now and how they felt they can capitalize and how they feel about this upcoming game. And first and foremost, Nix was speaking about the Jets and how it's labeled as a trap game, saying, quote, "I think in the league, quite honestly, it's a little disrespectful to consider anybody a trap team. They're an NFL team, and they're going to have some really good players on their defense, and it's not really a trap game. I think any game you walk in and slip up and lose, that's just the league. If you're not careful in a way, all of them could be because they're that good of an opponent." Is it fair to say that every opponent you see in the NFL is worthy of winning a game? I mean, there are definitely teams that look worse than others, but does a trap game even exist, Trent? Because what he's saying is that a trap game doesn't exist, and I don't agree with that at all.
I get his point, just given that the NFL is the best of the best, and every team is going to have at least a few good players. You know, it kind of reminds me of that debate where people are like, oh, well, could the best Alabama team beat the worst NFL team? And I still think the worst NFL team will win because these guys are NFL players at the end of the day. This is not an easy league to get into. Yeah. So I get what he's saying, but you see these trap games, you're a touchdown favorite, especially this one being in London. Like, that doesn't play into anybody's favor. It doesn't play into the Jets, doesn't play into the Broncos' favor. And I think also last week's win over Philadelphia really plays into that as well because they're riding so high off that miraculous comeback, 18 unanswered points in the
how could you
quarter.
Not? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't blame them. Like, I'd be riding high if I pulled that off. So
yeah,
I do think that grounding themselves is important and kind of being like, hey, we got to be 1-0 this week. Last week doesn't matter. The following week doesn't matter. But I do think trap games are real. You see them in the NFL, and you see it. I mean, I know you're going to see them in all sports, but the NFL is different because you're only playing once a week, and you're playing mostly opponents that are around your tier level. So I do think the trap games in the NFL are real, and I think that this week could be one, and they gotta be prepared and not make any dumb mistakes. They just got to play Broncos football.
Yeah, well, it's only a trap game if you lose. At the end of the day, it's only a trap game if you lose. And you can have all this talk that you want about it being a trap game, but it doesn't really matter as soon as you step on the field. I mean, we've got a great team, one of the best defenses in the league. Nix has found his groove. You know, you got a real solid wide receiver room in Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Evan Ingram, amazing backfield now in J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. The Jets can't catch up with that. There's just no way for them to do that. So I do understand what he's saying there, that there is no trap games, but what? Like, come on, this should be an easy win. This should be the easiest win. And, you know, Bo went on saying, quote, "But they're a good football team. They've been close on some games. There were a couple of walk-off plays away from having 2 or 3 wins. I definitely think that it's something you've got to be careful with. This is not a team to just toss around like they're winless, but I think we will be ready to go. It's just another game." And it's funny that he said, this is not a team to just toss around like they're winless. And you know why that's funny, Trent? It's because they are winless. They're winless. I mean, yeah, you could toss them around a little bit. Have a little fun out there. I want to see the Broncos look like the Broncos are supposed to, you know? This should be one of those games where they're doing everything at the highest level. So I do understand what he's saying, trap game, but this should be an easy win. This really
exactly.
should.
And, you know, and I get his notion, you know, Pittsburgh, the Steelers kicked a field goal with 63 seconds left to take the lead in that one. Tampa Bay, field goal at the buzzer to get the win in that one. So those two are close. But Buffalo, they got throttled, and Buffalo's a good team. I mean, we know that. Miami, the scoreboard says 27-21, but that game was not as competitive as the scoreboard reads, in my opinion. I mean, Miami got out to a 17-3 lead in that one and then kind of just coasted the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dallas last week, that game was out of the quad box for me by the second quarter.
Yeah.
That was terrible. And, it says 37-22, but again, the Jets are putting up these empty numbers at the end of the game. I mean, it was 30-3 midway through the third quarter. Like I said, I had that one in the quad box. I thought it'd be good, and
That one's getting kicked out quick.
NFL record for getting kicked out of the quad box.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I want to give the Jets some respect. I want to.
Yeah.
I think Sauce Gardner is an incredible player. Garrett Wilson, great player, but those guys are not going to be able to catch up. They shouldn't be. And you know what? If we come back here on Monday and we're talking about a loss, then I'll take a step back. I will say, hey, I was wrong, but I put the odds at that close to zero. There's no chance for me that the Broncos make this any less than a blowout. We might see a competitive game through the first half, but with the Broncos and the way they came back last week and what we've seen them do late in some games, this should be gone, by the third quarter. The fourth quarter shouldn't matter in this game at all, really.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and that's just the Broncos. That's Bo Nix going out there, and that's one thing that he has. He's got a lot of respect for the teams around the league. We know this about Bo. He'll never go out there and just talk his crap about every team in the league. That's just not how he operates. But I feel like we can kind of understand where his head might be at. He's trying to give him his respect, but he knows what he is. He knows where the Broncos are, and he's probably looking at this game as a win before they even touch the field. And I don't want to put anything into his mouth because he definitely didn't say that. But if he's not thinking that this should be a win, then I'd be a little disappointed as a fan, because you want your quarterback to really feel like this could be a win, or this should be a win at least. And we've seen some trap games happen so far. There's been a couple this season. Green Bay losing to Cleveland in week 3. That was definitely a trap game. That was a game that Cleveland had no business being in. I mean, the Packers looked amazing through the first 2 weeks, and then Cleveland was just able to go out there and do something incredible. So that was definitely a trap game there. And then can we even say that last week, the Giants losing to the Saints, can that be classified as a trap game? I mean, I know that Jackson Dart is a rookie and they're making some mistakes out there, but the Giants have looked solid and the Saints have looked the opposite. So can we classify that as a trap game even?
I think you could, and especially because they were riding a high. They just beat the Chargers at home, Jackson Dart's first start, and they come out, and I think their final 5 possessions were all turnovers, and they were playing on the road. I just think not playing at home really hurts those trap games. And then you brought up Green Bay, Cleveland, which I think was the biggest one of the season so far.
Definitely.
I mean, Green Bay is up 10-0 after 3 quarters. Cleveland with old statue Joe Flacco back there just couldn't do anything. And then they finally get a drive, they get a field goal, and then Jordan Love throws one of the worst interceptions of the season.
Oh.
And then Cleveland gets a touchdown. It's 10-10 with just a couple minutes left. And then they get another opportunity where they only have to move the ball 16 yards at the end of the game to set the game-winning kick. And just like that, the big, mean Green Bay Packers that I thought was one of the best teams in the league after those first 2 weeks, bowed out to the Cleveland Browns because they clearly were playing with their food a little bit. Jordan Love was not himself in that game. I don't know what his preparation was that week, but you see these games all over. And for the Broncos fans out here, I don't want to put this bad memory in people's heads again, but Christmas Eve, 2023, when the 3-11 Patriots came to town and the 7-7 Broncos were making a push to the playoffs, and the Broncos lost that game in one of the most deflating, underwhelming, just
that was one of the worst things I've ever witnessed. It makes me sick to my stomach to think about it right now.
Yeah, and that was and it was like, 1-5 start to the season, but they've turned it around and they just couldn't get anything going. And then the Patriots get that deep ball up the sideline late and they kick that field goal. And you're supposed to be having nice Christmas Eve night, Santa's coming tomorrow. Broncos fans are supposed to be happy. And instead their team just lost to the 3-11 Patriots because they took the game for granted and they clearly weren't prepared for it, which I would classify that. It's probably one of the biggest Broncos trap games this decade. I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot of them, but that game sticks out to me as a big, big trap game. And I know, Bo Nix wasn't here for that. Nick Benito wasn't the same. that team, the 2023 team, was fairly different. But Sean
Very.
Payton was still the coach,
Yeah.
and there were still some of the guys. So maybe they can have a taste of that and, hey, be like, hey, remember when we were riding high and that crappy team came in and kicked our butt? So maybe those guys can remember that. But this has happened before in Broncos country, so they really need to not let it happen again and get to 4-2 this week with an easy opponent.
That would just be so deflating. After the weekend we just saw last week beating the Eagles and you have a relapse of that Patriots game, I would be in shambles. I don't think I'd be able to, walk. I wouldn't be able to get up in the morning. We'd be doing this show from remote. I'd be home too doing the show because I wouldn't be able to do anything that day except come in on the show and start crying. But, moving on off of Bo Nix and off of the trap game stuff, Sean Payton also spoke on what the difference between the tough losses last year felt like and the big wins like this year against the Eagles have felt like. He said, quote, "Look, I understand the significance of last week's win relative to the opponent, and they're all units. And the first objective is to win the division. The second is to improve your seeding. And then last, play for a championship. That hasn't changed. Just as we digest a loss and then try to flip the page, the same has to be said with a win." I think that that's an amazing quote, first and foremost. Just as we try to digest a loss and flip the page, the same has to be said with a win. It's a mindset you'll see a lot of coaches have where, oh, what is a win? And you're 1-0 now, but next week you're 0-0. You need to start with a win. It's every week is a win. You got to look at every single game as 1-0. And that's what Sean Payton seems to preach to players. And, he's obviously talking about the first goal being to win the division. That was his main goal this whole offseason, to win the division. And he mentioned it there. With a big win like that, they put themselves into a spot where they can win the division. He didn't really speak on, in that quote at least, what his mindset is going into this game, but he clearly knows the gravity that Eagles win had. And it's just really important that he understands where the team is now relative to last week, because last week we were not having the same conversation about the Broncos. We were not sitting here talking about, a trap game to the Jets. We were wondering about, can the Broncos actually win this? I was so bold to say that I don't believe the Broncos can win this game. And now we get the luxury of sitting here talking about a trap game against the Jets, where if they didn't win last week, we'd be sitting here saying that this is a must-win game, because, must-win games can happen this early. And it's just, where do you think Sean Payton sees his team performing, especially after that win? He hasn't really talked about where he actually sees his team, because he just wants to win the division, but he's got to have an actual goal of where he sees his team, right? Because he's got a picture in his mind of what he expects. He's got a picture of the end of the season standings. What do you think those are for him?
I mean, I think that, first of all, he's got to see his team put it together for 4 quarters. I still don't think this Broncos team has done that this year, and I think that that's kind of the biggest thing he's wishing for. Even that Bengals win, that first quarter was a little shaky a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing for him, and this is a game to establish that, is, hey, we need 4 consistent quarters, offense, defense, special teams. And I think that's, if you can get a game with that, then you can say, hey, this is what we need to look like to win the division. This is what we need to look like to make the AFC Championship game. This is what we need to look like to go win at Buffalo in January. So, but I love how you brought up the point of us talking about trap games as a luxury, because we're not talking about trap games for 60% of the league. We're only talking about trap games for good teams in this league, because they should win these games. And so the fact that the Broncos are in that conversation being talked about with trap games, like you said, it's a luxury, and it shows the steps that this team has taken in the last couple of years. But now they still have certain things to put together. They have the penalty issue to put together. And then, like we just said, 4 quarters of consistent football. But I think that's what Payton wants to see from his team first before they can think about winning the division.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. There's been a lot of good and a lot of bad from this team so far this season. And, a game like this against the Jets, where they are clearly underperforming, this is the kind of game that you just use as a reset. Get your team going, get Bo Nix a real good completion day. I mean, we were talking about Marvin Mims yesterday being the X factor for him to just throw downfield. Start him off with easy completions. I want to see Bo Nix in a 70% completion category after this game. That's where I want to see Bo Nix look, because these are the types of games that, again, reset, just get everything moving right, and then you got a couple more to look forward to, because after this, it's another New York team in the Giants, and they are not as easy as the Jets. And, Sean Payton went on to talk about where he's at, especially in London, saying, quote, "Look, I think we have the makeup and the leadership to understand where the focus needs to be this week. I like that we're over here in London, of course. I couldn't tell you or point in the direction of where our hotel is, and that's fine." I wanted to throw in that last point just to show that he's kind of having a good time out there. But, he's saying that the leadership and the makeup of this team knows where the head is at. And you got to think that that's Bo Nix, right? After the quote that we were just talking about, Bo Nix has been the leader every single time he's on that podium. He's talking about not only him, but his guys and where their minds are at. He's the speaker for this team. Who else, especially on the defense, is that leader for them, leading them into this game, saying, hey, we're up against the Jets. What can we do to make the most of this game? Is it Nick Bonito, or is it Patrick Surtain, or is it Talanoa Hufanga? Who's that leader on the defensive end?
I think it's got to be Alex Singleton right in the middle of that defense. He's had a couple shaky games. I know he's recording a lot of tackles, but that's not always the best thing. And he needs to get on track. But he's a captain of this football team. He's in the center of that defense. He's out there for most of the snaps. He's got to take control of this unit and be like, hey, we are better than this opponent. We need to go out there, stay sound, gap integrity, just everybody do their assignment, and that makes success as a whole. So I think it's got to be Singleton. But just seeing what these players said yesterday, you can tell that they're dialed in. Peyton was like, no sightseeing, and they're in this sleepy town. I don't know if you saw the little package that 9 News did where they're just there's like one tavern in this town that they're in. So
Sean Payton. That's so Sean Payton.
Exactly. So I can see that this team is focused and they're here to play football. They're not here to go look at Big Ben or go ride the double-decker bus. I've never been to London. I don't know. It's like the only two things I can think of.
What is there to do in London other than the double-decker bus? And
I know that you can go to Wimbledon in July, but that's about it. So, but yeah, they seem focused. There are no distractions where they are. And I think, like you said, Nix on the offense, and I think Singleton's got to take it on the defense. You need these guys to be vocal leaders this week and just, hey, I know it's a weird week. I know we're across the pond, but we're still playing football at the end of the day. It's still the same game inside the lines I think they're playing on turf this week. I think they're practicing on grass, playing on turf. So on the turf, focus up, just do our job, and let's get out of here and go to Denver. That seems like the mindset, and Singleton and Nix got to be in charge of leading this group.
Yeah, no, the mindset looks great, and I really do expect a big win. I can't tell you what exactly the score will be. That's for tomorrow. We're going to be giving some score predictions, but I'd expect it to be by at least 2 touchdowns. And I know that may be lofty considering that the Jets have kind of kept it close on the scoreboard in some ways, but I expect a big win. But not all Broncos today, because we're going to be talking about another one of the Colorado sports teams that's making their home debut tonight, and that is the Colorado Avalanche. They are back in Ball Arena. I can't wait. How excited are you, Trent? It's finally Avalanche time back at Ball Arena. They're opening the doors back up again for some sports. What are we excited to see here?
Oh, I'm pumped. First of all, I'm excited. I don't know if there's a better feeling than when it's warm outside and you walk into Ball Arena and you just get that chilly feeling.
Yeah.
You got to keep the ice cold in there. It's just, you got a big hockey sweater on, feels a little chilly. It's just so good to have hockey back, seeing it on the TV the last 2 nights, and they haven't even been full slates. I think tonight's really the first full slate. So, yeah. And this team got a big win on Tuesday. I know we talked about it down in LA, 4-1, should have been 4-0 over the Kings. So, it's going to be good. And they're playing Utah, who kind of stole the nickname of their neighbor, the Colorado Mammoth, a little bit. I don't know.
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't.
There's some of that there.
It'll be good. Something else I'm excited about.
Yeah, walking into Ball Arena.
Ball Arena got a new value menu for the concessions, like hot dogs, pretzels, nachos. Yeah. We're looking at $5 now. So
yeah, they're taking a note from McDonald's book.
I know if you're looking to go to a game and enjoy a nice thing of nachos, you're not going to have to break the bank. I think they cut draft beer from like $14 to $10. So they're
what a
trying to
steal
make
now. What a
they're
steal.
trying to make the experience more money friendly for the fans. So I think that's something that gets me excited about going to games. It should get everyone else excited about going to games. And then the on the ice product, I mean, I know Utah wasn't exactly the cream of the crop last season, but this is a good team. They've made some improvements. JJ Paterka, they only missed the playoffs by 7 points, but they
were hanging in there. This is not a
guys.
scrub team. This is not a team that you can just brush off. They did miss the playoffs, but it wasn't by a lot. I mean, they're looking okay, or at least they looked okay, and then they've improved. Again, as you said, the addition of JJ Paterka, they've grown with some age. They're looking better, at least on paper, than they did last season with those additions. But, with the on-ice product, there's one big name outside of the few major names for the Avs that I'm thinking about, and you know who that is. It's Marty Necas. Marty Necas coming off that 2-goal performance. There's a lot of conversations to be had about Marty Necas. Of course, an extension. That's the big talk around him right now. What'll have to be done from him tonight? Because we've seen a lot of great from him in just one game. What are we expecting to see from him tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say he gets a goal and an assist tonight. I think he gets another 2-pointer going. But you brought up the contract. This Avs front office needs to get going. Like Jack Eichel just got 8 years for, I think it was $13.5 million annual average annual value yesterday. This front office has got to get a deal done before they're sitting right there in a Rantanen situation with Necas again. And I've seen people float around 11 million a year now, and I thought it would be around 10. And I don't think that Eichel deal helped the Avs front. It helped Necas. I mean, go get your payday, man. That's awesome. But I don't think that helped the Avs front office one bit. So I think he's going to get a goal and an assist tonight. And if he does that, this front office needs to get the paper out.
I think they'll start pulling that checkbook out right away.
They need to get that checkbook out, because that number is going to keep increasing. And maybe they're waiting. And this sounds bad, but maybe they're waiting for him to just have a bad 4-game stretch and be like, oh, well, we don't want to. It's
not a bad move.
But every hockey player they have a stretch 3 or 4 games where they might not be their true self. I mean, we see it in Mackinnon and McDavid, and it's okay. It's just the nature of the game. You get shut down for a week or whatever, and you're not yourself. But if that's what this front office is waiting for, is for Necas to have a bad week, I don't think that's really the greatest strategy. I just think they got to get this contract done as soon as they can, because other deals are going to start flying around the league, and Necas is going to see that, and then he's going to start upping his price tag. So I think he's going to show out tonight, and I think that he's going to make another statement of, hey, I want my money. You need to pay me.
Pay me. Yeah. No, I mean, I hope so. Honestly,
I hope so too.
I hope he does. I want to see him, get that money first of all, but I also want to see him play for it. If he has another game similar to like what he did in game 1, hand him a checkbook. I don't want to go so far like they might go with Cale Makar in this offseason, because he's got a contract coming up this offseason, but it might be one of those where it's like, okay, we're ready to shell out some big numbers for you. We're talking Mikko money, because of course what Mikko wanted was a lot last season, but with the increase of, money this year, we might see Marty get around the same price. We might really see him get around what the Avs were offering Mikko, and that would be a fair deal considering everything else that came from that Mikko trade, everything that you have now in this locker room because of the loss of Mikko Rantanen. It seemed really harsh when it actually happened, but now it's looking like the trade really turned out to be more in the Avs' favor. Marty's looking like that guy. He really does. So hopefully he can continue to be that guy. Hopefully the Avs can keep him for a couple more years. But another player that you should be watching tonight is definitely Gabe Landeskog, because in game 1 against the Kings, surprisingly, he only played 11 minutes. Not a big number for him. And he only had 2 shifts in the third period. We didn't see him get out very much and very often. And what I'm seeing might be a little bit of load management. Is that what you're thinking? Or is that maybe just, we're blowing out the Kings, let's keep Gabe off for a little bit longer than he might need to be?
Oh, I definitely think it's a little bit of load management, which I know Bednar said in the preseason. He's like, if he's healthy, we're going to play him. But I mean, you look at the shifts on Tuesday, excuse me. Gavin Brindley, he only played 7 minutes 50 seconds. He's a young guy. Parker Kelly, fourth liner, he played 10:58. Kivi Ronta 10:27. Like Landeskog's down there with the bottom six guys, which is nothing wrong with that by any means. But it's like, hey, he's getting, and he only had 16 shifts in that game when like Ross Colton had more shifts than him. I mean, all the top guys had more shifts than him. So I do think that they're managing him a little bit, which is fine, you know. And in a game against the Kings where, hey, we just scored 3 goals in the third period, we don't need Landeskog out there. We got these young guys that we can try, especially early in the regular season. So I think if this is, you know, Saturday when they play Dallas, hey, it's 2-2 in the third period, I think he'd play more than 11 minutes in a game like that.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're up 3-0 in the second period in the season opener, I don't really see a reason to play him. It's not like you don't know what you're getting from him. This guy's been around the league forever. And and he's shown that, like, he looks like his old self for most of it coming back from these surgeries. So I think it's fine they're load managing him, and I think that they're going to try and pick and choose their spots for him. And maybe if tonight gets close, they'll play him again, or they'll play him a little more. But tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of another 12-minute, 15, 17 shift outing, and just keep going with the management.
Definitely. And I mean, I don't disagree with that mindset at all, especially with how deep the Avs are right now. There's no reason to keep him out there if you're blowing teams out. Just keep him, you know, rested, coming off the injury that he had, of course, for the past couple seasons he's been out. There's no reason to get him started so hot and so early in the first game of the season. There's just no reason for that. But another player to watch is, of course, Scott Wedgwood. This is my guy. Gotta love Wedgwood. But in his career against Utah, he's 0-1. They lost 4-1 back in December, on December 12th. That was around when Scott Wedgwood originally came to the Avs, and he's 0-1. Let up 4 goals. Not great. Of course, not great. But we've only seen growth from Scott Wedgwood. What do you expect him to look like tonight?
I think he'll let two in, which, again, pretty average. You know, that game you brought up, that 4-1 game last December, I just think that was more of he was just trying to figure out. He's probably still learning guys' names in that game. You know, he's like, hey, who's my third D pair in this game? Who's on the third line? I don't know who these guys are. So, you know, I don't really look into that a whole lot just because of how fresh he was with the team. And we've seen him, like you said, his growth since then has been great. He established himself as one of the best backup keepers in the league last year. He dominated on Tuesday night, you know, and we were talking about the woodshed yesterday. The woodshed isn't just about one guy. It's about both of them. And Scott Wedgwood is just as important to this goalie room as Mackenzie Blackwood is. So I think he'll let 2 in. I think the Avs are going to win this one 4-2. I don't really think it'll be like that much of a nail biter. Like I think one of those, like it's 3-1. They have a 2-goal cushion almost the entire time. And they're better than this Utah team. They look great on Tuesday. This is Utah's first game of the season. They haven't played yet. So I'm looking for a pretty smooth victory tonight for the Burgundy and Blue.
Yeah, I want to go way out of my way and just drop a crazy prediction of 5-2. Avs win at home. Crazy win at home to start the season. You know, here I would love to see it. Now, I don't know how confident I am in a 5-2 victory, but that's my prediction for tonight. It should be overall a fun game to watch. Of course, watching the Energy, tune in early to see what it looks like, at least on the broadcast of that game when the Avs come home. The game is tonight at 7 p.m. and will be broadcast on ESPN Plus or Altitude if you have that. So go ahead and watch that. It should be a lot of fun. Make sure you leave a comment. We're going to be reading some of those. Love to always see your guys' comments. Prediction 3-2. Ball Arena is going to be on fire tonight. Let's go, Avs. Yep, there we go, Mel. Gotta love it. It's going to be so much fun. I wish I was going to be at that game. Are you going to go to that game tonight, Trent? Are you going to be there?
I will not be there, sadly, tonight. I will be locked in on the TV. Don't worry. I
will be right there with you. Got to get the power play going tonight. Yeah, I mean, definitely.
That's a good point. Yeah. One for 6 the other night, and they brought in the new assistant coach who's in charge of the power play, and it looked a lot like the same. It looked a lot of the same, where it's just Mackinnon skating as fast as he can up the middle and try and get in the zone. And their only success was they got a face-off in the ozone, and it resulted in that Natchez goal. So
Yeah.
if they get another 6 opportunities, I mean, they're going to have to get that going. It's too early to raise concerns, but to me at least, I was like, this looks like a lot of the same stuff that plagued them in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, and last season, the Mammoth actually had averaged 9 minutes of power play a game. So got to get that going and keep it going. Attack on that 100%. Natchez over Mikko. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's overall with the other additions, yes, but just Natchez over Mikko. I mean, you might be calling it early, Mel. I can't say I disagree with you, but I can't necessarily agree with you.
Close one.
Yeah, it is close right now. But that'll do it for today's episode of From the Nosebleeds. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll be back with y'all tomorrow, of course, previewing a big matchup for the Broncos. Can they go out and avoid the trap game against the 0-5 Jets? And then, of course, the CU Buffs. Will they be able to get back on track, or are they going to keep falling down this hole of failure? But thank you guys for joining. I'm Joey Gunnar here with Trent Finnegan. We will see you all tomorrow. Until then, y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.